Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us from around the globe. And welcome to the special roundtable talk for the 2025 Constitutional Committee election. My name is Josephine Birkicht, and I am part of the community team at the Cardano Foundation. And I'm delighted to be your co-host for this important event. I don't want to say too much about the purpose of the Constitutional Committee, since Frederick Regard will be taking the stage soon, only that it is a cornerstone of Cardano's on-chain governance framework. And with the registration period now closed, we have 19 candidates who have put themselves forward for this crucial role, of which 15 have confirmed participation in today's roundtable. So today we're here to give the community, and most importantly, the DReps who will be voting, a chance to meet the candidates and hear directly from them before the voting period concludes. And to kick things off, I am honored to introduce the CEO of the Cardano Foundation, Frederick Regard, who will now share a few words about the purpose of the Constitutional Committee and the significance of this moment for Cardano governance. Welcome, Frederick.
Thank you very much, and thank you for everybody tuning in and people who is listening to this on a stream somewhere around the world. This is a true unique moment, another one, and we keep putting these unique moments up for Cardano. And this is about growth. This is about moving Cardano forward. I was so lucky to be in Washington on the Hill a few weeks back, and last week I actually visited the Swiss Parliament. So I'm really touring a lot of policymakers, regulators, but also extremely large companies, infrastructure providers, who's all paying a lot of attention to what we do on Cardano. And putting governance on-chain and creating an on-chain government, a tri-party government, is something nobody has been successful with before, and we are succeeding. And I think what's so truly unique about today is that I was actually sort of a little bit worried a couple of months back. I was thinking, who would actually step up and take the Constitutional Committee baton from the Interim Constitutional Committee, who is willing to put in the work, who actually see the benefits of that, and will we actually have enough distribution that is not just one class of people or one class of companies who's going to do that, and what would the quality be? And I was so excited to see, as people were putting in their applications, to see that not only do we have private individuals with very deep experience in technology or in governance, we also have associations who recognize that individually they might need different points of view, but we also have companies, not just companies, but companies who actually live and deploy on Cardano, or build on Cardano, or even contribute to other people who build on Cardano. So this mix of different, let's say, individuals, associations, and companies truly shows that Cardano is growing up. In my conversations with these policymakers and regulators, people are paying so much attention to us because we had the ability to articulate how our governance work, but also how we keep changing it and improving it. And this is another proof point of how we are moving forward as Cardano. So today you're going to meet, as Josie said, 15 of the candidates. I was a bit sad that we didn't get to 19, but 15 is already a lot. But I'm sure you'll meet them in other channels. And I truly hope that all DReps out there, you pay attention to all of these candidates and you put in your vote. Because the best that can happen right now is that we get a very high voter participation, because this is truly unique people and companies who's actually going forward and saying we're going to do this for Cardano and for blockchain adoption around the world. So thank you very much, everybody.
All right, thank you, Fred, for setting the stage and taking the time. And with that, I would say let's dive right in. So I will briefly explain how our roundtable will work today. And it will work in a way that we will bring each candidate up individually. So at first, they will introduce themselves or who they represent in one single sentence. And immediately after, they will begin answering 3 questions. And these questions are also visible on screen for everyone. They should be on the right, on the right for you guys. So let's say, for example, I'm going to be up and I would introduce myself. It would be something like this. Hi, I'm Josie, and I represent Community Team Council, which is composed of 8 members with the goal to make Cardano succeed. And starting with the first question, I would like to mention that. Exactly. And this is when the time would start. So with the first question when you start answering that. And each candidate will have a total of 7 minutes to answer these 3 questions. And it's completely up to them how they divide the time. You will also see a timer on screen on your bottom right, which will start as soon as they begin answering the first question, as you already noticed, and not during the introduction. So when the timer reaches its final 30 seconds, you will also hear some subtle music as a signal. And to ensure fairness, we will be strict with the timing, and we also might move on to the next candidate for once the 7 minutes are up. Because our goal is to provide a structured and fair platform for each candidate to share their perspective with you. And as a reminder for the representatives and candidates, these are the 3 questions. So first, why do you believe your background equips you to effectively represent a community and uphold the Cardano Constitution? This could include past contributions or experiences, and the question on screen is a bit shorter because of the space there. Second question, how will you act in case you're unable to determine the constitutionality of a governance action, or in case you're a group, how will you handle inconclusive recommendations, for example, a tie? Third and last question, how are you planning to ensure transparency and remaining accountable as a CC member? All right, so without further ado, I would say let's welcome our very first candidate to the stage. Let's give her a big digital applause. Beatrice Anihiri. Hi, please introduce who you represent in 1 sentence, and then you may begin answering the questions right away. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Beatrice, also known as B, and I represent the Cardano Atlantic Council along with a few other people, 5 other people. And to answer the first question, we have already been sitting on this Interim Constitutional Committee for the past year. And I believe that has helped us really understand what the role of the CC is and truly understand what the CC should be able to do or should do to be able to aid the Cardano community the best way possible in their capacity. Also, I understood the question on the screen a bit differently because in my head it said, how do you uphold the Constitution as your representatives? And I mean, we're all Cardano community members, which is very lovely. And that is one of the most important things, I believe, that we are all community members who understand how important this Constitution is for the community and how we can bring it forward. And with the Cardano Atlantic Council, we have people in all walks of life with different expertise, both technical and community-wise, which I think has helped us very much in the past year to get a deeper understanding of what might be not best, but how to make our decisions. To the second question, how will you act if you're unable to determine the constitutionality of an action? We have been through a lot of positions where we aren't sure what to do, and we always have had this rule that how do I explain that? I'm sorry. I think for this question, we would most likely abstain because if we're not able to determine if it's a hard yes or a hard no, then abstain would probably be what would make sense. And that's what we've done in previous rounds, where if we don't feel like we have sufficient information to be able to determine, we will abstain. But of course, that depends on the governance action itself and how it's written in its written form, I guess. And also, how are you planning to ensure transparency and remain accountable? Transparency, we've held by disclosing all conflicts of interest and also being open and communicating with the community. We have GitHub, we have Twitter, and we actively join spaces. We join all or most community activities to be able to answer questions or at least to represent. And I think that also helps us understand any confusion that anybody has had with us or our party, I guess, if I can call it that. So yeah, not quite 7 minutes, but here we are.
Thank you for getting us started with your thoughtful answers. B, thank you. Is there anything you still want to say? I mean, you still have time left.
Yeah, I actually wanted to share a little bit of what Frederick mentioned about not, the beginning of the election, we were also very unsure how many people were going to join. And, sitting there a year ago, not really understanding if people would like it, because, governance is not supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be boring. And it's, and we were scared that if we don't have enough people who want to take on this job, what will we do then? And sitting here today and being able to share the stage with 15 other people who are more than ready to be able to serve the CC is really, really inspiring. And I'm so happy that I get to be in this position right now where I can see all these people, and really thank you guys so much for stepping up, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, B, for being one of the 15 representatives or candidates here today. So next up, we have Jose de Gamboa. Welcome on stage. So feel free when you're up to introduce yourself and start answering the questions right away.
Okay, thank you, and hi everyone. Just congratulations to everyone here. It's I really want to express the same thing that B said. It's overwhelming, and it's inspiring to see so many good candidates being here. So I'm sure, regardless of the outcome, we're going to be in good hands with a healthy constitutional committee. So my name is Jose de Gamboa. I'm representing Adara Consortium. We're a group of 4 people, which is Ian Hardwell, who has been part of the Intersex Constitutional Council and chaired it for a while. Has been a huge force behind the rationale writing of the voting. We have Larissa McFarlane. She's also part of Intersect. She's been secretary both of the chair of the Civics Committee and of the Intersect Constitutional Council. She's also been part of very engaged with the community with Claymates and with other initiatives.
Just 1 second to be mindful. Like the introduction should just be 1 sentence. I'm sorry to interrupt you there.
Sorry, yeah. I thought I could mix it up with the rest.
If you want to, you can do that, but then we have to start the timer now.
Okay, let's do that.
All right, let's go.
Okay, so as I was saying, Adara Consortium is basically a consortium that was formed by 4 people. Our goal is to create a group of people and an initiative that looks for Cardano's resilience. After Cardano, we want to ensure that all our decisions are made with the lens of continuity and Cardano's permanence over time. So that doesn't mean that we won't be looking at every perspective, but of course the spirit of it is that we'll protect the Constitution with the lens of resiliency over everything. And that's what's behind our name. So Adara is kind of a made-up word that comes from amaranthus, which is the amaranth plant, which is a very resilient, unkillable, not withering plant. So that's why we came up with this name. And I'm going to go back to listing the names of the people who's part of the group. So I already mentioned Ian, who's also very technically expert. So we have that part covered. He's also an SPO. I also mentioned Larissa McFarlane. We also have Dennis Lattery, who's a governance expert. He's been part of the community for a while. He has implemented governance in more than 20 countries for many different types of organizations, including Asian, European, Middle East, and US banks, hedge funds, energy companies, NGOs such as the World Bank, F1 motor racing teams, advertising agencies, insurances, investment firms, etc. So, so we're very happy to have him on board. And then it's me. I am engineer, business, and economist. I have degrees in all of those 3. I'm a business school professor in blockchain. I have more than 25 years experience in designing organizations. I have been involved in Cardano for quite a few years. I've been serving in roles such as in the Constitutional Committee and the ICC for Intersect. I also chaired the Civics Committee for a while. I participated in the working group that actually drafted the Constitution initially and then designed the ratification process and also implemented it. That brought us to Buenos Aires and Nairobi. So quite engaged in governance, and I'm looking to continue serving the Cardano community in the Constitutional Committee role. So I'm going to move over to the questions. And I already kind of answered, that's why I took a little bit of time presenting everyone, because our backgrounds, as you can see, are very connected with the Cardano Constitution. So we have people who have been delegates. I forgot to mention that Larissa has also been delegate and was also there in Buenos Aires. So our backgrounds are very well connected to governance. We were very active in actually drafting and ratifying the Constitution, so we're very connected to its content. We know it very well and are committed to defending what's there. For the second question, so we do believe that everything is constitutional unless proved otherwise. So we would initially deem everything constitutional unless we can find something in Constitution, something that is unconstitutional specifically. So we want to, err or have a mistake in the side of freedom. We don't want to get in the way of the liberty of the proposers and the will of the DReps and the data owners. So we would vote definitely on every governance action. We'll try to vote constitutional everywhere we can, unless we can specifically find something that is against it. And we would vote abstain if we had, for any reason, a conflict of interest. Of course, anticipating every possibility is impossible, but that's how the philosophy goes. And finally, planning for transparency. So we, of course, have rationale for all of our votes. All of those rationales are on chain, but are also on a repository in GitHub. We also have community engagement. So we have a protocol for, and that's based on the experience that we've already had doing this for almost a year. We have a protocol. We check for every governance action decision that we need to make different aspects. And one of those steps in the protocol includes community engagement. So consulting the community. And then we have, after the decision has been implemented, we have a point every 3 months in which we go back and review our decisions and see how they aged, and we learn from our previous decisions. Not only to be able to be consistent with everything that we've said before, but also because we want to get better at it. That's, I think. Since I have a little bit more time, I'd say that we see that Constitutional Committee has not only the mission of actually voting constitutional or unconstitutional, so we see it as having two formal roles. So it's, of course, determining constitutionality of governance actions, but also keeping the state of governance outside of the no confidence state. So that requires absolute transparency and inspiring confidence, and that our decisions are sound and are technically profound and has been analyzed. And there's also education, of course, and making sure that the next whole cohort of people that will be engaged in governance is ready for our next election. That's it from our side. Thank you very much for having us here.
Thank you very much, Jose, for representing the Adara Consortium and sharing your perspective with us. All right, the timer has been reset, and I heard that we have Decho with us in the room now, representing futures and product. So, Decho Valev, there you are, I see you. All right, so I would invite you to come with us up on stage and introduce who you're representing in just one short sentence, and then you can start answering the questions you see on screen right away. You have 7 minutes for that. Ready to go?
Yeah.
All right. The stage is yours, Decho. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate being part of this. Just is the timer starting, or
It
I
will
have to
start when you
introduce?
start answering questions. So introduce who you represent, and then the timer will start after.
I represent Futurism Product, and I'm really happy to be a part of this hosting. I'm ready to answer the questions. So, okay, why do you believe your background equips you to effectively represent the community and uphold the Cardano Constitution? So I'm probably the most new candidate per se with experience in Cardano compared to everybody else. I have experience with Jet.com Walmart, that is hundreds of billions in market cap, and also Intuit as well. So coming from these public companies that have hundreds of millions of users, it's a different perspective of product management and customer service and marketing and just overall how big those companies are. So in this use case, I'm gonna give two examples. So yesterday at midnight, I was submitting my SanchoNet test key vote with the help of Mike from the Atlantic Constitution Committee. He was very helpful. And also midnight right now with the release of midnight, I went through the whole paper multiple times and just trying to figure out what a Coinbase and Robinhood, for example, can be used to, send money from them to a wallet if before the snapshot. So I believe into relation to the question, if you're very technical, it's going to work out for you. But if you're barely getting it, I think product management and customer service is something that I want to represent in the Cardano Constitution so that we get more users. I've had 5,000-6,000 people that I've helped with their taxes over into it. And then for e-commerce, I'll give you an example with a company that I work right now. When there's 10,000 units sold, there's 1,000 returns. That means 10% of people were not happy with the product. In Cardano, 99% of the people are happy with it. So I understand that the heat for that 1% that's not happy with it, some are not able to figure out what to do with it, but I'm ready to take those punches. So that's the question one. To the second question, how will you act in case you're unable to determine the constitutionality of a government's action in case you're in group? How will you handle inconclusive recommendations? I've been in, X spaces and I've seen how you guys, are focused on handling those. Yes, inconclusive recommendations, abstain, no, those are answers that are difficult to get to an agreement to. However, I stand by Charles Hoskinson, who built this from scratch. So if we're currently at 20 billion market cap and we want to get to 50 to 100, around 10% in marketing is required. So any major company that wants hundreds of millions in ADA, I would approve it. Obviously, I would read it. I'll have a rationale as I did in submitting the testnet keys that I did yesterday night. But I would go for stronger yeses because we need to spend a lot to get to that 50, 100 billion. We're there. We're top 10. We can get to top 5. The stable coins right now with the big, beautiful bill are packing up, even though Coinbase and Robinhood are not having the same volume. And Cardano can 5, 6, 7x if we just push a little bit more with the budget. How are you planning to ensure transparency and remaining accountable as a CC member? I want to work with everyone. So you can screenshot me, you can record me. I'll take the heat. It's difficult sometimes to take the heat, but I will do it. You know, some people are having difficulty with enduring such complexities, but I'm ready for it. That's it. I have 2.5 more minutes.
You do if you want to
Let's
say
see.
something else.
Well, I do want to thank everyone for giving me the chance to go through these questions. I'm not gonna tell you to vote for me because there's people that are much more involved in Cardano, have been for many years, but I think my experience would be providing you with a potential candidate that is from quite a different background. You know, I haven't even talked about my space exploration and art, experience that I've had. You know, like the SpaceX rocket that landed on the moon on February 22nd, 2024. There were 222 artists. That's in my, in my application. Also, I've played college and professional tennis. And if I were to refer where Cardano is standing right now, if this was like a major match, Cardano right now has won a set in 2021 with its peak. The last 3 years, the top 9 opponents have gotten the sets, so we're set all. And we basically got to turn around the match to be top 5. We're there. Like 99%, everyone's there. Obviously, I've heard the frustrations on the X spaces. Some people are not happy. Some people are happy, but you got to take the heat. We're so close to winning the match, and there's so many amazing people in the community, companies that are giving their best. I would say marketing approvals, search engine optimization, also GEO. It's a new thing. It's related with AI optimization because most people now use AI to figure out their answers. So as I'm approving or not approving any kind of proposals, I'm going to communicate as many people as possible. I like being part of groups because when I'm in a group, I can sense the vibe of a group. So if you can put me in many groups, Discord groups, Telegram groups, X groups, I can absorb more information, run it through myself, figure out with the help of, AI, what it means, what it determines. But again, as a constitutional committee candidate, I kind of I'm very supportive of what Charles has done. Also, I want to thank Mike Fernan from the Sanchonet team. Without him, this will not be possible. So you guys got to pay him. And also his friend Phil that they saved Cardano from DDoS attacks. So, and everyone else, the influencers, everyone that's messaged me on X. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, on point. Thank you, Decho, for stepping up along with these 14 other representatives and candidates. And I think your message was clear. You're ready to take the heat. And next up is Joeri from the Quality of Life World Foundation. It's good to have you. So just the same, please introduce who you represent in 1 sentence. And as soon as you answer the question, the timer will start. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Josephine. Thank you very much. And hi, everyone in the room here and who's listening. So I am Joeri. I am the co-author of the book, Person to Person, Change Your Life and Fix the World. And today I represent the Quality of Life World Foundation, which is a public utility foundation building regenerative infrastructure for public goods on Cardano, obviously. First question. So I've been in the Cardano ecosystem for many years, and I've worked on decentralized governance schemes with my work at the foundation, like conviction voting, quadratic, and all those kinds of nice things. However, I honestly don't think I am the most qualified candidate today. There are many more people in the community with far more experience than I have, more visibility, stronger track record, and so on and so forth. So to give you a little bit of the context, I submitted my candidacy to the Constitutional Committee because at the time, there weren't just enough people stepping up. I think it was Utah who posted something like, guys, there are three submissions. And I believe that in a decentralized constitutional democracy like Cardano, governance is not just a right, it's a shared responsibility. And I deeply care about this project and where it's headed. And so if I'm elected, I will obviously approach my role with humility and seriousness and a commitment to protecting that democratic foundation that to me makes Cardano way more than just a blockchain. Then there is a question about how do you determine, how do you move forward if you are not able to come to a consensus kind of ideology there. So for me, I'm definitely not knowledgeable about every topic, and certainly not about the Constitution. So if I'm elected, there's going to be, let's say, an uphill getting into it kind of a roadmap for me, but that's fine. And if I'm uncertain about something, I will always go back to first principles. So it's legitimacy, restraint, long-term coherence. That's kind of what the foundations are for me. And that sometimes that means you just pause when it's needed, you listen, you take the time to seek out diverse perspectives, you make sure any decision is grounded in the spirit and not just the letter of the Constitution. And I'll come back to that a little bit later if time is still there. And if there is a part of the group which probably who is constituting a deadlock, there are obviously lots of governance schemes inside the foundation to help us get over there. So we'll deal with those when the time comes. The fourth question about how I'm planning to ensure transparency. So I think nothing specific here. Transparency, to me at least, it just doesn't mean being clear about what you decide, which obviously I will, but also why. And I'd like to have my reasoning in public, in a GitHub repo or something like that, and acknowledge that I don't have all the answers. That's also a very important one, I think, and invite an open dialogue when it's needed. As a conclusion to that, I wanted to say that I don't see this position as a position of influence. I see this more as an act of civic duty. And if I serve, I will do that with clarity and accountability for the Cardano community. Since I have some time left, I will go to a closing statement maybe and share some of my thoughts on the broader, let's say, discussions that are going on in the ecosystem at the time, that also partially direct the, where the chain and where this wonderful thing that we have is going. And so for me, and I already mentioned that earlier, Cardano is much more than a blockchain. For me, it's the seed of a network state and an ecosystem of shared values. And so for me, in that context, partner chains and cross-ecosystem collaboration is the only way that will get us there. And it will get us there if we focus less on the price charts and more on building resilient, self-funded infrastructure. This is why I like to see the Treasury evolve into an actively managed self-sovereign wealth fund for that network state, where a pool of capital that can grow over time and underwrites mission-critical upgrades. Its primary purpose is to safeguard and evolve the protocol itself. So for me, personally, community projects should start with private and entrepreneurial risk. The Treasury should remain constitutionally backed, let's say, and it is not to become a grants bureau. And upholding that principle keeps Cardano true to its libertarian roots, which ensures long-term legitimacy and, as far as I'm concerned, my most deep interest in the ecosystem. And so I think I wanted to share that as well, because I think it defines, it's beyond the role of what the Constitutional Committee has to think about, but it enlightens a little bit where my personal convictions lie. And that's it for me. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Joeri, for representing Quality of Life World Foundation. I was about to jumble around, so good to have you here. And yeah, so far everyone has been very on point with their answers. So if there's time in the end, feel free to add some more insights to your perspective for the people who are watching. And next up, we have Kinson for SIDAN Lab. So
thank you so much.
Good to have you. Hi, so Seba put you on the stage now. Same as the others before, feel free to introduce who you represent in one sentence, and then you can start answering questions. All right,
thank you so much.
Let's go.
So I'm Kinson, one of the co-founder of SIDAN Lab. We have 5 people, and SIDAN Lab is a Hong Kong-based blockchain think tank focusing on creating impactful blockchain use cases. So let's dive straight into the first question. So we are a group of young developers and growth hackers in Hong Kong. Initially started SIDAN Lab as a side project, over time, building on Cardano, like we became professionals and we maintain and keep our track record, constant engagement at Cardano with 4 main focus. First one would be the governance as a DRep, reviewing governance actions, publishing the rationale on chain. And then the second would be the developer tooling. We focus on developing and maintaining mesh transaction library and also our Rust SDK. And we also do community building, hosting Cardano Hong Kong and hosting Builderfest Asia. And we also have a product which is called Delta DeFi, Hydra order book DEX, to bridge high frequency traders into the Cardano. What it motivates us is to run for the CC is we have already taken governance seriously as a DRep, and we see the CC as the natural next step to continue to uphold the Cardano Constitution. And governance is super early stage, and we think to achieve this decentralized governance to exist, and it's the CC job, it's the responsibility for ensuring that the constitutional principles are upheld. So we are ready to take on it. Yeah. And regarding to the second question, would be the again, like how to what happens if there is a tide. I think most people would talk about how they feel about certain stuff issue. But for us, we are focusing on how to establish a well process, because you may have human errors, human feeling, personal feelings, but the process is the key. For unclear or borderline cases, like we commit to doing the work, reviewing the constitutional by line, putting our rationale on chain publicly. And as a group, we make our decision following the simple majority. So 5 of us, and then if 3 agrees on something, then the voting decision will be agreed. But if that's the case, like 2 saying yes or 2 saying no and 1 saying abstain, we'll probably vote for the abstain one. Yeah, so I think the simple majority rules applies. And we also thought about what happened if one of the co-founder exit as well, or just exit. And if that's the case, like simple majority still applies. So process is the key, and we will try to label out all the process coming forward. And for the last questions about how to plan to ensure the transparency and remain accountable as a CC member, for this question is a bit broad, and I would say like we need to think about what the future looks like. What do we want for the future governance to be? Because right now it's super early stage, and the action that we are doing right now will set an example for the future governance. So for us, no matter it's DRep or CC, we will publish every vote and rationale on chain and also on GitHub as well. And further than that, we will host community sessions to explain about key decisions and gathering feedbacks. And I think most people may not be very super active in governance. And some of them may have confusion as well between the role of CC and DRep, which means education is super important. And therefore, we will also launch a Discord bot, which is a governance tool, which allow the community to participate and shout out their feedbacks. And we will extend the feature to applicable to CC roles as well. And the last but not least is also for the transparency. And we actually wrote down this on the election board. Like we got lots of conflict of interest. It's just like, hell yeah, like lots of it. Because we wear many hats and we are proud to serve in multiple roles in the ecosystem, like we are SPO, DReps, funder proposer, etc. That's why if we get elected, we promise not to submit treasury withdrawal proposal during our term. I think these are very important to showcase the transparency to the community and to safeguard the constitution. So yeah, and that's it. If any one of you any DReps haven't voted for us, please support us and vote for SIDAN Lab. And thank you, CF, for hosting this session. And it's super grateful to meet everyone here. Thank you so much.
appreciate you being here. Is there anything else you want to share? There's like a bit more than 1 minute left.
It's all right. Yeah, no problem.
All right. Okay, Kinson, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if I'm correct, next on is Erik. Hello and welcome. The stage is yours. Please introduce yourself. Get ready to answer the questions.
All right, let's go. Thank you so much. So my name is Erik. I come up here from the north of Norway. I represent Tingvard. We are 5 members coming from the trenches of Cardano. So for the questions, why do you believe your background represents the community and upholds the Cardano Constitution? So to explain about a little bit about, I'm actually very proud to be part of Tingvard. Tingvard is Norse and stands for gathering of people and protection. That's how we came up with the name. We consist of, as I said, 5 members, which has a vast and very wide experience from the Cardano ecosystem. We have people here, that engage with the community already 3 months after the launch of the Cardano blockchain. We have Arne Rasmussen. He's a senior engineer. He has a very robust background in designing and modeling and validating complex systems. He works in the offshore industry and subsea industries, and he has a very structural way of approaching things. We also have Bjarne. Most of you guys probably know him as Techpool. He's a stake pool operator up here in North. He has a bachelor in automation and computer science, and on top of that, he has a master in cybernetics. So he's like hands-on tech all the way. Then we also have Eystein Hansen. A lot of you people probably know him. He has a master degree in law. He even has a master degree in psychology, and he's also been operating ADA North Pole that goes way back. And this is the guy that actually had the most experience from the Cardano ecosystem. Running a stake pool, I think they minted the first block all the way back in 2022, autumn. Anyway, he also been part of the civics committee. He is have been part of the Intersect ICC member. Heavily involved with Cardano Constitution all the way from the beginning. What else can we tell them? Yeah, he's been hosting tons of workshops, educating me, a lot about, the nitty-gritty technical part of Cardano. And then we have Trym Bruseth. He has a Master of Science in Pure Mathematics and Mathematical Logic. He didn't stop there. He also took an undergrad in Computer Science, specialized in advanced databases. You guys probably know him most as Husky Intern. He's been hands-on creating the infamous Hydra Doom game. A lot of people talk about that, and doing a lot of CK zero proof knowledge work, and recently now many heard of him in regards to the Quantum Husky. So he surely knows his number and been around in the ecosystem. And I think he also have a little bit to do with the Midnight ecosystem as well. And on top of that, we have Thomas. He worked as a community governance community engagement manager at Intersect. So he basically been working full-time in regards to governance. And he also go way back in 2018. He also hosted the community-led summits here in Norway since 2021. And he also sure knows the governance. And then we have me. the least educated, but I have the longest experience. I've been in the blockchain industry since the very beginning. In regards to Cardano, all the other people that I mentioned have been twisting my arms to get engaged with the governance. So I've been taking part with the governance since Edinburgh in 2022. I'm a delegate and took part in Buenos Aires, ratifying the Cardano Constitution. I do volunteer work. I sit in the civics committee, and I also chair for the CC election working group that basically facilitated some of this. So that's why I think we have a very vast and wide experience of how we can represent the community, because we come from the trenches, basically. The term of inclusive recommendation, I find it very hard that this fine gang of five would not come to agreement. And if we should do that in somehow, I don't see basically how that's going to happen. We will basically reach out and do what we always do: engage with the community, hang out in spaces, trying to catch what's going on. And we have also a very vast network to reach out to. Either is off-chain and on-chain and stuff like that. But we will be transparent about dialogue. We have the GitHub. You guys can follow Tingvard down there on X. There we will communicate how we're thinking and how we're doing things. And we will also see us active on X, participating in debate, as we always have been doing, putting forward our voices and our opinion, and hopefully a few good solutions as well. And so I hope all the DReps watching here, thank you so much for listening to me yapping for a very long time. I really appreciate it, both to Tingvard, if this is something that you think will uphold the Constitution and create good vibes in the crypto space, particularly for Cardano. So thank you so much.
Ken, Erik, thank you so much. Tingvard, a name to remember for sure. And next up we have Matthias Benkort, aka K2Z. I have never bothered to actually think about how do I pronounce it correctly, but I'm sure you will teach me now. Please, the stage is yours. Introduce yourself in one sentence, and then you can go and dive into the question right away.
Thank you, Josephine. And you can pronounce it the way you like, really. I don't care. So, name is Matthias, or K2Z. I'm a software engineer, and I've been working on Cardano for 8 years now. When it comes to the questions, why do my background represent the community? I see myself as a community member first. I'm working at the foundation today. That's been for 3 years. Before that, I used to work at IOHK, and I came to Cardano as a Cardano enthusiast first at the end of 2017, just after the mainnet launch. So I'm happily using Cardano for various things. One of my favorite questions every time we go on convention workshops or whatever, and I have to pay back people is, do you accept ADA? Usually the answer is yes in our communities, which is good. But more importantly, I know the protocol quite a lot for having worked on pretty much every single part of it, from the node to, Hydra, Akens, and all kind of tools gravitating around the Cardano node. More recently, I've been leading the effort on the re-implementation of the node, known as Amaru. So that forces you to really dive in and know the very nifty details of all the bits. And governance-wise, I've also been involved very early on with the governance process. I was working with Jared and Sam and Kevin on the CIP 1694 when it was even just a private draft. and hadn't been shared yet as a CIP. I attended quite a few workshops in Tokyo, Boulder, Buenos Aires, Zug. So I tried to be present and present more on the technical side, of course, due to my background. But I have a tendency to get also politically and strategically involved, which is why I'm here today, I guess. I see the CC really as being this human layer on top of what we would have hoped could have been just a smart contract set of guardrails. But it's kind of hard to encode all the different subtleties and ambiguity that you might have in a constitution as a smart contract, which is why we have, in the end, this human layer that can interpret some of the bits and pieces. And it's kind of the boring part in a sense, because the whole of the CC really is not about giving an opinion and saying what you prefer and what you would like things to be, but it's really more of a mechanical role, digesting the constitution and trying to see whether or not something is indeed constitutional. And at the end of the day, it is your vote that makes it constitutional or not. So that's quite a big responsibility. And I think something you would want, people with enough backgrounds and context to be able to understand and the full size of a particular proposal, because our protocol is complicated. So it is tricky to see sometimes where something is indeed constitutional. So that leads us nicely to the second question, actually, which I would answer quite rapidly. What to do into, sorry, the dog is behaving a bit. So what to do in case of something I can determine if something is constitutional or not? I guess the easy answer is I would just step down, because that means I can't do my job. And being alone means that it's relatively hard to be inconclusive with yourself, usually. So the only reason to abstain really would be in case of a conflict of interest. But even there, I would argue that a CC, by being this human element that assesses the constitution, there is usually no conflict of interest, even if you're assessing your own proposal. And I think if you propose something, you should actually assess the constitutionality of your own proposal as well, at least to the best of your extent. And of course, not submit something that you believe is unconstitutional. But yeah, the gist is really, if I can't come up with a decision on whether something is constitutional or not, I would just, I guess, step down, or before that, possibly seek help in people that might have this expertise and the knowledge that I lack on the topic. And for the last question, the transparency bits is easy to answer. I would just use the blockchain for that. I think we have a good tool to ensure that we can record decisions, we can keep track of what's being said in an immutable fashion with a proper timestamp and so on. So that's why we have the rational on-chain metadata and so on. And on the accountability part, well, I think already by being an individual, I'm exposing myself personally way more than you do as a consortium or as a company, because you get the blame directly in case someone challenges your decision. And again, one thing I guess that people forgot is that while we are currently having this CC election that is being facilitated by Intersect, and I thank them for that, it is also not a requirement. Anyone can submit a constitution update that will update, a constitution member update, sorry, that will update the member of the CC. And so that means if you're not happy with my decisions, you can always just remove me. That's an option. And I think that's the highest level of accountability we can have.
Matthias, thank you so much and sharing your perspective as an individual candidate. And next up, we have Temujin Louie from Wanchain. So he's representing Wanchain, and he's here with us straight from the airport. So I'm really glad that you made time. I'm good to see you right in the car. I hope the connection holds up. So what we're doing right now is like every candidate introduces like who they represent in one sentence, and then they answer the 3 questions on screen. So if you have them right there, great. If you need to hear them again, let me know.
Yeah, I can see them. If I pull like that, it's because I'm on my phone trying to read the little words. But yeah, I can see them.
All right, I can also read them to you. But yeah, let's go ahead. So please introduce who you represent exactly, like in one sentence, briefly.
Sure, yeah. So my name is Temujin Louie. Most people call me Tam. Simpler that way. I'm CEO of Wanchain. I'm sure in the next question I'll talk a little bit more about Wanchain. But yeah, we are a blockchain interoperability project. We build bridges in Cardano. We've been here for a few years. That's in a nutshell, the one sentence.
Perfect. So should I read the question to you?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
All right. Why do you believe your background represents the community and upholds the Cardano Constitution?
Sure. So yeah, let me just take 20 seconds here to talk a little bit more about Wanchain. It'll give you a bit of a kind of idea of why I think we're a suitable candidate for the CC. So Wanchain, we've been around for a long time, a similar timescale to Cardano itself, really. Officially launched back in 2017, but definitely, you know, the seeds of the projects were planted even before then. So we have this, you know, existing track record in terms of what we do. We're a blockchain interoperability project, so we connect different blockchain networks. Today, we're connecting 40 plus different networks. Now, as it relates to kind of Cardano specifically, back in 2022, we started building on Cardano. As you know, a lot of people here know, building on Cardano is quite a bit different from building on other chains. It took us about a year to kind of deploy our whole infrastructure to the Cardano mainnet. So we officially launched the bridges in 2023. And then in that time, almost 2 years now, we've secured about $70 million plus of asset transfers between Cardano and those 40 other networks. Most of these in the blue chip, you know, BTCT, ETH, USDT, and USDC. Now, you know, I think Wanchain kind of occupies a unique place in the Cardano ecosystem. We're both part of the Cardano community, but we're also part of other blockchain communities. And I think this is not something that is, you know, extremely common in Cardano. So we're able to bring this kind of unique perspective, learnings that we have from our interactions and learnings from other ecosystems as well. And I think, you know, that really has that could have some value if we are elected to the CC. In terms of us specifically, we're very analytical in our approach. You know, we've always connected with Cardano, kind of the 3 entities, particularly how they build with kind of academia first. We self-describe as an R&D interoperability project, so we share this type of mindset, and it allows us to be quite analytical and, you know, unemotional in our decision making, and for this mandate in terms of kind of gauging the constitutionality of the on-chain governance action. So very confident that we'll be able to do that. In terms of our approach to it, definitely, I think we would be the type of member who would, you know, aim to strictly adhere to kind of the specific wording in the Constitution, you know, respecting the original intent, but not necessarily the type of candidate who's going to be trying to exert their opinions or influence, or even trying to, you know, in a way, default to what the community wants. We'll really be here to kind of defend and protect the Constitution itself. So that'd be my answer for number 1.
Let's head straight to the second question. And how will you act if you're unable to determine the constitutionality of an action, or how will you handle inconclusive recommendations? For example, a tie.
Yeah, so, you know, we're operating as a company, so there'll be a few different voices, but as it kind of pertains to the CC, I myself will be spearheading it on behalf of Wanchain. So the other people on the team, most of which are engineers, will have a lot of technical support there. Sorry for bringing the phone close to my head there. I was rearranging my glasses, but so I'll be able to kind of rely on them as needed, but ultimately the buck will stop with me. So in terms of kind of these ties and things like that, it's not really going to happen at Wanchain. Now, in terms of kind of being unable to determine the constitutionality of a particular action, you know, I kind of feel like that we mustn't let that happen. And the way that we, you know, it's our kind of one and only mandate. So if we're at a point where we can't figure it out, you know, I think it's probably an error in approach. Our particular bias in this case will be to kind of go over the various actions, put them through the lens of all the tenets and all the different articles in the Constitution, and really try to just make sure that they are not unconstitutional. If they are not clearly unconstitutional, then we would default to a constitutional position. That would be our own bias. We want to kind of, the CC itself is quite powerful. It has a veto power over a lot of these decisions. So I think it'll be very important to kind of limit the scope of where that power is applied, and especially in year one. So this is why we'll have this kind of default position where unless something is clearly unconstitutional, our votes would then default to constitutional.
Thank you. Last question. How are you planning to ensure transparency and remain accountable?
Sure. Well, accountability is, I think I heard the end of the previous person. Definitely, ultimately there are mechanisms in place to remove members of the CC. So accountability at kind of the high level is there. And kind of the more day-to-day accountability. We are a public project, and I'm a KYC person. So we're very much reachable and kind of vulnerable in a way. So we're making ourselves vulnerable taking on this by hoping to take on this responsibility if we are elected. Now, transparency, I think, is going to be very important. Definitely all the reasonings for the decisions, particularly those that do kind of go towards, that vote unconstitutional. All that reasoning definitely published openly. There's the on-chain component, certainly, but also we'll maintain a record of these on GitHub as well for kind of ease of access. I kind of also view this, the CC, I think there is mention of it in the Constitution, though not as a requirement, but these types of deliberations between the different members of the CC, I think these will also be very important. So this is sort of another form of accountability, so we're not just going to be this kind of siloed voter, not going to talk to anybody else, not going to talk to the community and just issue down coming our votes from on high. As we're going through this process, we'll be talking with and deliberating with the other CC members as appropriate, potentially with the kind of community itself, particularly as it relates to kind of the more ambiguous language that currently exists in some of these, in some of the sentences in the Constitution. So really running out of time, but let's just say, we'll be transparent. We're going to do things in the open, and by virtue of who we are, how accessible we are kind of operationally accountable. And then, of course, the voters, the community always has the kind of nuclear option of removing us if we're not doing our job.
Oh,
The end.
that was on point. Thank you so much, Temujin, and safe travels. And great that you were here, took the time to represent Wanchain as a candidate today. So next up, we have Nicola Massella. Hello, and I see you already put it in head of legal and representing Storm Partners today. So please explain in one sentence what Storm Partners is for people who don't know, and then head to answer the questions right away. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. So Storm Partners is a Geneva-based consulting firm dedicated to the Web3 space. We work with layer ones and other crypto and blockchain ecosystems to scale. In a nutshell, that's what we do. So why do we believe that our background is suitable for this position? Well, we have been involved with the Cardano ecosystem for a number of years now. Our team members have participated in multiple Cardano summits. Myself, I've been involved in the master classes, specifically actually on decentralized governance and the Cardano Constitution. We have also participated, and again, me personally, in the constitutional workshops. I was also a backup choice for Argentina, but luckily my the prime choices didn't have any problem. We were able to go to Buenos Aires. And yeah, we have been involved with the process of the Constitution for quite some time now. And I must say that even from a professional perspective, being a lawyer that works with decentralized governance, basically on a daily basis, this is a very interesting example of how decentralized governance has been implemented. And I'm not afraid to say probably the best example out there in terms of blockchain ecosystems and how decentralized governance has been conceived so far. So even from a professional point of view, it's quite interesting to participate in these. Now, we have put together a team of different professionals. 2 of us are lawyers, but not only lawyers. We have decided to put in a group. We have also people that have a bit more of a technical expertise and other backgrounds. Of course, you can find all of the profiles on the public page in which our candidate is explained. So I will not go much further into the topic. One other thing I can say is that most of our team members got certified as Cardano blockchain experts via the public course that Cardano made available to reinforce our knowledge of the Cardano ecosystem and its also technical aspects and foundations. Why? Because we work on many projects related to the implementation of Cardano technology, and we work also on some catalyst proposals as well. So we have quite deep expertise into the ecosystem. So for the second question, now I will answer a bit more as a lawyer. I interpret very strictly the role of the Constitutional Committee. I think it's the right way to do it, let's say. In my opinion, there is not much room for uncertainty. Some of the candidates, in my opinion, correctly pointed out earlier on that the way in which we should take our decisions is that either we see something that is non-constitutional and then we stop it, or we should pass it. The Constitutional Committee is not a political body. We're not here to advise and so on. We are here as a body of guarantee. And we need to, let's say, uphold to our mission, which is to guarantee that the principles of the Cardano Constitution are respected. And this is how I will interpret the role. And so again, I don't really see a case in which there is so much uncertainty. I think in any case, we should be able to arrive to a decision if something is unconstitutional and therefore needs to be stopped, or basically it can be allowed. For the third question, so transparency, accountability, this I think is very important. And the two, in my opinion, go pretty much together. As I view it, in my opinion, the motivations that are behind every vote should be publicly available. So we will disclose why we have taken a certain position with respect to a vote by publishing a short memo or commenting in live chats. We are planning to open dedicated social media accounts to our role as member of the Constitutional Committee if we get elected. And of course, to participate in all sorts of frameworks in which we can have discussions and interactions with the community and directly be accountable to them and answer to them on why certain decisions were taken and again, what's the rationale behind it. I think that's pretty much all, and I've been efficient with the time.
Nicola, yeah, thank you so much. For more than 2 minutes left, is there anything you want to add for our audience?
Well, a bit maybe to expand on what I was saying earlier, I think Cardano is doing something really great, and it will work if everybody that, let's say, is in this framework will do his job. So again, the point of the Constitutional Committee is not to go above and beyond, is to do something that, let's say, we would even see as boring from maybe, but very important. And we need to do that right. So I've heard a bit some things that are not super accurate from some of the previous candidates, like deciding on marketing expenses to boost the token value, and something that probably is even desirable, but it's not the role of the Constitutional Committee. Constitutional Committee has a very important role. Let's do that, and let's do it well.
Yeah, Nicola, thank you representing Storm Partners today, and thank you for taking the time. So next up, we do have Max van Rossem. So see, there you are up on stage now. Same goes for you as well. Please introduce who you represent in one sentence, and then you can start answering the question to your liking. All right, the stage is yours, Max.
Super. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yes. We can hear you.
Okay, super. Yeah, so Max van Rossem here to represent the Cardano Constitutional Consortium. And the why that really brought us here was to prove that, be part of this movement that proves that there are better systems possible. So I'm not going to go specific to myself, but really into the consortium, so you can start the timer because it will also answer the first question. So we are 3 people, Gabriel, Mark, and myself, and we were brought together actually through the Cardano community. So from the constitutional convention process, we met in Kenya for the first time, where we were having a workshop on the constitution. Before that, we've already all very much been involved with Cardano, but Gabriel was representing Austin, Texas, Austin, USA. Mark was from London and myself from Den Haag in the Netherlands. And we just realized that, there were some key elements in the constitution that we believe needed changing. For example, some wording around what is now Article 8, updating the constitution. And the way of working together really went very well, and that's what brought us naturally together. And in terms of the contributions to Cardano, which is essential to really having that buy-in, right, in what you're doing and who you're representing. So we have Gabriel, who's contributed to writing SIPs, and Mark is also writing a Cardano Explorer actually for SanchoNet. Myself has already been a co-SPO since ITN. We've all been part of also organizing events. So I've been hosting the events for Amsterdam since 2021. And there's, I think, a lot of our fingerprints all over the community that people will be able to find. So I think one of the key things to mention here as well is the fact that apart from our Cardano experience, we've also all had a lot of professional experience. For myself, my background is economics and impact finance and technology advisory. And we have broad distribution of capabilities within the team. That is really important to keep in mind when also interpreting the broader implications of what is happening with each governance actions. Although we're strictly interpreting the constitution, I think it's also part of the role of CC members to help provide context on how Cardano governance could evolve, right? And that's broader than just interpreting from a legal point of view, but also from a game theoretic point of view or even a technical point of view. So that's something that leads me to the next question. What do you actually do with these inconclusive recommendations? I think the first step is really to note down in a high degree of detail what is really the root of the uncertainty, where you're getting stuck in this value judgment. And beyond that, I would echo what both Jose and Nicola say, is that you err on the side of constitutionality because you're essentially giving the DReps the ability to voice their will, and that is the basis of our constitution, right? That's how we interpreted it as well for a very large part in both Kenya and in Argentina. You could see that many of the delegates were more worried about attributing too much power to the CC rather than the reverse, right? And that is very much the spirit with which we would be entering the CC seat. Other than that, if you get into a tie, it's having the time and the process for ideas to be developed. There's always room for changing views, but it's important to be timely with engaging in the conversation. And being with the 3 of us and already having worked tightly together, we're confident that we will be able to not be blindsided and really be highly productive CC seat. On the transparency and accountability question, on the transparency side, I think the highest degree of signal will be in the communications from our ex posts, which we will all be vetting and part of, as well as the website and the GitHub, as well as, of course, what's happening on chain, and perhaps a little bit more fuzzy, but still very much representing the voice of CC members will be our personal X spaces and open calls where people can come to discuss how they think that, technically some parts of the constitution should be assessed. And we'll be making that available for people to come to. And also in the long term, I would say that, you know, we were part of the early discussions on the Voltaire papers, which are basically about more context being provided for future CC members, which I think is also very important. In these next years, precedents are going to be set, and we need to have very good documentation on why certain decisions were made. Because although the CC determines by itself what is constitutional, we need to be able to help, you know, guide the heuristics by which constitutionality is established. And yeah, further from an accountability point of view, I mean, our names are on the Constitution. Each of us was a delegate from our respective countries and cities. And we are very much committed to making sure that this great experiment becomes a success. So that, yeah, those are a few of the points. We've got a minute and a half here. I think it would be worth to mention that we are a bit of a small consortium, but we're not worried about that. The fact that we've already been testing quite a bit on Sancho. And, you know, we are also of the idea that you can actually get too big of a consortium where you have a lot of overhead for coordination. That's just a question that we had a couple of times. So I'll let you guys all know that. And also we'll say up front, this was another question that we had yesterday, that if we were granted the great honor to be one of the highest elected CC seats, we would opt for the 2-year run, due to the fact that that represents what the community also wants. So that's something that everybody needs to think about as well, is that we don't all try to pick 1 year, because that's not actually in the best interest of the community, not how they've intended to vote. But yeah, thank you. That's all.
Next, thank you for sharing your perspective and representing the Cardano Constitutional Consortium. And next up, we have Philip DiSarro as an individual candidate. So, Philip, you're up next. And yeah.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hi, good to see you. We're switching around quite a bit right now, but yeah. So I think now you're on stage, and please, yeah, give us an introduction to yourself, like a short 1-sentence introduction, and then you can start answering questions right away and weave in your perspective on the things there. So,
Yep.
Stage is yours.
Great. Yeah. Yep. So I'm Philip DiSarro, the CEO and founder of Anastasia Labs. I contributed heavily to developer tooling in the ecosystem, and most of the work I do is with respect to open source protocols, increasing the availability of open source code and tooling, and reducing the cost to ship on Cardano. This has been my main focus. Fun fact is that everyone in my family except for myself is a lawyer, and my father taught constitutional law at West Point for 25 years. So this was, you know, very in my alley. It's sort of a mix of the two domains, and yeah, that's why I've pursued this. Now, how will you act if you're unable to determine the constitutionality of an action, and how will you handle inconclusive recommendations? Well, there can't be a tie, because this is one of the benefits of running as a single member. And on that note, I think Matthias mentioned a few earlier, but accountability is trivial, right? When I make a vote and it's on chain, everyone can see, you know, how a CC member votes on chain. You can't particularly see how individual members of a council voted on chain, and you have to, you know, respect. You have to reach out to them individually or do some technical digging to figure out how they voted, which you can't really expect the average user to do. Yeah, I think this is one of the benefits that some individual members introduce, right? You can reach out to me directly. I'm a very public person, and I respond to DMs everywhere. I have a Discord, Anastasia Labs Discord. I'm in open discourse with the community. You can schedule something on my Calendly, and I'll be there and have the discussion with you. Of course, I'm doxxed and single-handedly responsible for for any vote that I make. Now, how will I determine the constitutionality of an action? This is a great question and something that I've been incredibly passionate about in my discussion on Twitter. I've been highly critical of the level of subjectivity in the Constitution. I think that basically everyone I've talked to recognizes that the Constitution is an extremely bad document. And despite the fact that everyone voted yes to it, myself and my representatives included, every time I ask why they voted yes, they said it because they didn't want to stall the governance process, and they had expectations that it would be rapidly modified over time. And I had those same expectations, and in fact, that hasn't been the case, which has been quite disappointing. I think an auxiliary role of the CC is to identify places with subjectivity, high amounts of subjectivity in the Constitution, because these are big red flags. A Constitution which defines common values and defines, common rights, etc., should not have such a high level of subjectivity that nearly every single vote we have huge levels of divergence in voting. You'll see many cases where we have 3 or 4 members voting no and the same amount voting yes. And this is with a very limited amount of governance actions so far. And this is a big red flag, right? It means either, some members are not doing a good faith interpretation of the Constitution, which I don't think is the case. I think everyone is trying to do a good faith interpretation of the Constitution and has invested a ton of time into their decision, or it means exactly what I said, in that the Constitution is too subjective. So these parties can invest a ton of time and effort and be as rigorous as possible and come to different conclusions. And yeah, why I've said this is because so far this has happened, but we haven't actually done anything about it or acted on it, right? CC members have expressed discontent with the current Constitution, but I believe that as an auxiliary role, CC members collectively should meet and discuss these points of subjectivity. And in every such case of significant divergence, right, where all the members agree that, yes, this is highly subjective, a given criteria, etc., work to address it and remove subjectivity as much as possible from the Constitution. Now, if I'm unable to determine the constitutionality of an action because of this, right, because I determine that an action is in a large range of subjectivity. Some terms like sufficiently researched, or some terms like revision plan, right? The Constitution says that a revision plan must be provided, but it doesn't specify that the revision plan must be provided directly embedded in the body of the proposal, or if it's sufficient that a revision plan is provided and sufficiently socialized off-chain and available to all DReps, etc. Right? Something like this, to me, is very subjective, and you could say that something like a parameter change has an implicit revision plan of changing back the parameter. And in such cases, I will err on the side of voting it constitutional, because I believe that anytime the CC interacts, they are using a special authority which essentially allows them to override the will of the community and the sort of implicit promise of ADA holders that was granted to ADA holders, right? As a holder of ADA, unlike other top smart contract currencies, you were promised a direct say in the future of the chain, right? The ability to directly influence and participate in the governance of the chain. And the CC is the only entity which, at this point in time, now that we have on-chain governance, can override that will, right? If 91% of active stake votes for some proposal and the CC, vetoes that proposal does not happen, right? So I think we have to be very careful in such cases, and that's why I've said I will err on the side of voting a constitutional with such activity.
All right, Philip DiSarro, representing himself as an individual candidate. Thank you for being here today as well. And next on stage, let's welcome Sayra Yen. And Sayra is representing the Cardano Japan Council. Welcome, welcome. And please, would you also introduce the Cardano Japan Council in one sentence? And then you can dive right into the questions. Stage is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me well? Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you. It could be a little bit louder, but we can hear you.
Okay. Is it better? No?
Not really. No.
Okay. Let me
Okay.
check the
Our
settings.
tech wizard Sebastian, he's also on it. He said he'll fix it too.
Yeah. Mic test. Can you hear me better?
I don't hear like a bigger change, but I think for most of us it's good to go. So we can hear you, but we all will have to like tune up our headphones a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Go ahead.
can start. Hi everyone. It's great to see most people I've met in person, and I'm glad to see some new faces as well. So my name is Seira Yun. I'm representing Cardano Japan Council. We are a group of 5 people. All of us are Cardano ambassadors or Cardano Intersect Japan Hub manager or members, and also we are all long-term members of the Cardano community. For the first question, we believe that we are capable of representing the community and upholding the Cardano Constitution. We have 4 reasons. First one is about the original vision. So we understand deeply the original vision of Cardano. So what is the original vision of Cardano? It all started in 2014 in November when Charles Hoskinson did a TED Talk on the future will be decentralized. And that vision is enshrined in the Cardano Constitution's preamble. First sentence eloquently states that Cardano is a decentralized ecosystem of blockchain technology, smart contracts, community governance committed to improving economic, political, social systems for everyone, everywhere. And this is the vision that we want to uphold. And I want to take this quick opportunity to give a huge shout out to Charles, because thanks to his vision and his hard work for the past 10 years, and not only his work, but all of us, everyone here, we've worked hard to realize this vision of the decentralized ecosystem, decentralized future. And thanks to this vision, we live in this future now, and we get to discuss community governance today. So I want to give a big shout out, whether you agree with whatever he says on Twitter or not. I think he deserves that credit. And back to Cardano Japan Council. So we are here from the beginning, from the inception. We know the journey that we've been through. We know the history. And because of that, we are in the best place to uphold this first sentence of the Cardano Constitution's preamble. And so that's the first reason that we believe that we are capable of upholding the Cardano Constitution. Second is the learnings from the previous year. So we've been doing this for the past year. We've learned a lot. We've worked hard to make sure that our rationale makes sense, and we've had hundreds of hours of discussions among ourselves to make sure that this is up to the standards that we want to hold ourselves to. And third reason is about legal backgrounds and technical backgrounds. So we have some members who have a master's degree in international law and who has experience in practicing international law. And most of us are managing pools, so we are SPOs and we have technical backgrounds as well. And finally, we call it shared destiny. So most of us, our incentives are aligned with the long-term success of Cardano. And we believe that people who hold these positions should have this long-term perspective. And for us, we have a vested interest in the success of Cardano because many of our assets are in ADA, and the success of Cardano is aligned with our individual success as well. And we say that we are Cardano Japan Council, but we actually protecting the interest of all Cardano community members, all ADA holders, because we want Cardano to succeed. And that means we succeed together. So these are 4 reasons why we can uphold the Cardano Constitution. Second question, so how will you act if you are unable to determine the constitutionality of an action? How will you handle inconclusive recommendations? So we believe that if there's a tie and we want to discuss until we are out of that tie situation. So what we decided to do is that we want to have this internal vote as soon as possible, as soon as the governance action comes out. We want to have a discussion and we want to vote internally first so that we have sufficient time, if there's a tie, to discuss and make sure that there is a definitive vote, either constitutional, unconstitutional, or even abstain. Finally, how are you planning to ensure transparency and remain accountable? So we've been doing this for the past year as well, but in addition to the on-chain information, we publish every single rationale on X, and also we will be publishing on our GitHub account. And we will include not only just the rationale why we voted this way, but also dissenting opinions as well, because dissenting opinions might inform our community how we arrived at, and the heated discussions we've had, and those dissenting opinions might be the rationale in the future, and we want to keep that record and transparency. So thank you so much for listening, and if you support us, we would greatly appreciate your support. To be honest, I know most of you in this room, and I will be happy with anyone getting elected, and I'm sure we are in good hands. So I'm really glad that our community came out and we have really great members as candidates for this position. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sayra. It's great to see the appreciation between or among all the candidates here and how much you respect each other. It's very, very noticeable, and I think we can all be proud of you guys stepping up. So we have 3 last candidates. So the first one was already up there. It's Phil Lewis. After him, Samuel Leathers will be up, and then last but not least, we will be able to listen to Kevin Mohr. So Phil Lewis, please come on stage. There you are, representing the Eastern Cardano Council. Thank you for your patience. You've been in here since the beginning. So I think we all are very curious to hear what you have to say. Once more, please describe in 1 sentence, like, what's the Eastern Cardano Council about, and then dive into the questions.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for hosting this this live stream. So, as you said, I'm representing the Eastern Cardano Council. We're a regional collective of members from the eastern quarter of the planet. So we represent a diverse community of stakeholders with a shared commitment to inclusive, accessible, and transparent governance in the Cardano ecosystem. So that's us in a nutshell. So regarding the questions, so our background, so our council includes both technical and non-technical people. We've got educators, facilitators, project implementers, and community organisers. But we're all dedicated to making Cardano governance more understandable and accessible, especially in languages spoken in our region, which is obviously very important. There's a lot of non-English speaking members of the Cardano community. So we've authored plain language governance guides, we've run workshops, we've translated material, and we've contributed obviously to the interim committee processes. As an ICC member, we've responded to all governance actions. We've developed inclusive voting tools, and we've also developed an ISO 31000 aligned risk management framework to support our decision making as well. So all our tools and frameworks are open source, and we'll be sharing more details about our council voting tool tomorrow on our X channel, and we're inviting other CC members to use this tool if it's useful to them, because it allows non-technical voters to safely use cold keys without needing to learn how to use the command line. So just a bit more about the ECC. So continuing on the ECC from our original ICC seat, we have myself, I'm on the west coast of Australia. I've got Ha Nguyen from Vietnam, Oscar Hong from South Korea, Joe Alum from New Zealand, and Mark Byers, he's on the east coast of Australia. So Yuta, who was part of our ECC during the ICC period, is stepping down at the end of our term to focus on his DRep responsibilities. And so to replace Yuta, we introduce Miyataki Toshiaki. He's a Japanese community member since pretty much Cardano's inception. He's worked at all 3 founding entities. And we've also taken this opportunity to introduce more decentralization to our team by increasing to 7. And with that, we've introduced Andreas Susilo from Indonesia. So we're really growing the diversity in our council. Now, this distributed nature of our consortium not only provides decentralization in our decision making, but provides redundancy in our CC seat, which is quite valuable for this important governance role. This was actually demonstrated today, as I was not supposed to be representing the ECC for this roundtable. Unfortunately, Mark, who was supposed to be here, but he had a storm in his location, and it's basically left him without power. So just the fact that we are distributed globally means that we have that redundancy in our team, which is really important. So how will we act in case of we can't determine constitutionality of governance action? So look, everyone in our group takes this responsibility very seriously. So it's very unlikely to happen, and it hasn't occurred so far as part of our ICC term. That said, if we, we do operate a deliberative consensus. So if a vote within our group did end up in a tie or lacked sufficient agreement, and we can't collectively determine the governance action is unconstitutional, our default is to let the system proceed. In such a case like that, we'll either abstain or choose not to vote, but we will provide clear rationale as to why we ended up having to do that. We ultimately believe in erring on the side of leaving decision making to the DReps and the broader community. So if we can't come to a conclusive decision around constitutionality, then it'll ultimately be down to the DReps to decide whether to allow that action to continue. So with regards to transparency and accountability, so we've published a governance framework. It outlines how we operate and our commitment to decentralizing the influence that our council has. All our rationales are publicly available on GitHub. We maintain an X account, an email address, and we even have a feedback form that any community member can use to ask questions or provide input. And this provides maximal accountability, as the community can pretty much engage in a dialogue with us. And we have had people use that form to correspond directly with us and give us feedback or ask questions. Also, as part of our internal governance framework, we've set some thresholds, and this was a recent change that we made to our governance framework to basically ensure that any voting members who are participating in other governance roles, such as a SPO or DRep, if their voting power in those roles gets too high, then we have some thresholds that prevent them from being eligible to vote in our council until that voting power is reduced. And as a demonstration of transparency around this, we just recently published all of our candidacy members' current voting power to show that they're currently all under that threshold. And obviously, Yuta is currently above that threshold, but that's part of the reason why he's stepping down. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, we're very proud of our record to date and how much we have contributed to the ICC period. Obviously, just echoing some of the comments that Philip DiSarro made about the potential complexity in the current constitution. We've also commented on this challenge and are also taking steps to try and provide some greater simplicity around how the constitution is written so that there isn't any ambiguity or subjectivity, as Philip said. And obviously, that's a testament to that is the fact that Yuta has also just recently been drafting a new version and circulating it with the community. And so we're engaged in all these different aspects of being a CC member, not just in the voting on government's actions. So yeah, we would appreciate you allowing us to continue in the CC once the ICC term completes. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil, representing the Eastern Cardano Council. And we hope Mark is safe and the storm has passed. So please send him our regards. And next on stage.
He is safe. He just doesn't have power, so he is safe. Though.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so the power is out. It happens. Okay, next on stage, Samuel Leathers, representing Ace Alliance. Thank you so much for being here, for taking the time. And so, same for you. What's the Ace Alliance about in one sentence, and then you can start answering the questions.
Thank you. I'm representing Ace Alliance. We're 4 aces and a jester. So you can start the timer here, and I'll talk about our group here. So I'm Sam Leathers. People have known me for a while. I've been involved in Cardano since 2018. I was involved in the ITN, and more importantly, I helped create the SIP 1694 stuff. I was one of the ones that was there in the whiteboard session where we were trying to figure out what governance was going to look like and how we were going to do it. Rolled out SanchoNet, had a lot of interesting constitutional disagreements on SanchoNet, such as whether cowboy hats were or if flat caps were permissible on the island. People that have been around a while will get that joke. Yeah. On our alliance, we have Adam Roosh, who's been involved in the community for a long time. He helped in the initial parameter setting and did initial polling of the community to identify where we should set the parameters for governance. We have Ken Ladd, who was a delegate to the Constitution Convention and recently passed the bar in Wyoming. So we have legal expertise and experience with the drafting of the Constitution itself and that. We have Nico from the CF. He's also been heavily involved in the civic side on Intersect. Then we have Adam, Nico, me, Ken. Oh, yeah, and the jester, Hosky, calling truth to power. So it's always important when you're in a place of power to have someone that can call truth to power, and that's our jester. So going into the questions themselves, the first one was why do you believe your background equips you? I feel like we're a very diverse group. We all have very differing opinions, but we all believe strongly in the future of Cardano itself. So I think we're a really good balanced group to be able to assess the constitutionality and provide good rationale going to the community so they can evaluate whether we're doing our job or not. Going into the second question on what do you do when there's a tie or there's inconclusiveness. So we've agreed that our rationales will have a majority and minority opinion in them. So if there's not full consensus and someone wishes to write an opposing opinion on the constitutionality of it, we will publish that on chain and it will be made public for everyone to see. For communicating with the community and for being transparent in what we're doing, in addition to what we're doing on chain, I want to give a shout out to the Cardano Atlantic Council and their setup that they did with GitHub repositories, publishing things every step of the way, even before it goes on chain. And that's something that we're planning on doing as well. So yeah, we have the technical expertise to do it. We have the diverse opinions to be able to form a good seat. And I really appreciate your guys' vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sam. Nothing to add, you're done? You have 3 minutes?
That's good, thank you.
All right, man of his word. Okay, so last but not least, Kevin Mohr. You are number 15 out of the 15 candidates who agreed to be here today. And let's extend our last very warm welcome to you. You're representing yourself as a solo candidate, as you put it in. So yeah, let us know what you're about and what the answers to the questions will be. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. And thank you again for hosting this. Sorry I had to confirm so last minute that I could make it, but that kind of leads a little bit into the first question here. Who do you represent? Well, why do you believe your background represents the community and upholds the Cardano Constitution? Originally I didn't think I could make it here today because I was trying to host the DRep collective meeting, and I wanted to give the people that have been working with me over the last 6 months trying to create a platform for DReps to sort of collectivize. I wanted to, have that meeting today, but those are the kind of people I represent, and I have to be loyal to them first. So if I have something scheduled, I got to go with them. But in a broader sense, who else in the community do I represent? A lot of my opinions are not the most popular opinion. They're the opinions that are held by a lot of what people would call bad actors in the ecosystem, or people that are like trying to destroy the ecosystem. And I don't really view those people like that. I think that they just have a difference of opinion. And an example of that could be with this whole intersect vote we just had to make 39 individual proposals for withdrawal. That has been an opinion of mine for a very long time, that every sort of treasury withdrawal should be separate like that. And there's a lot of people on Twitter and X and whatnot that disagree. They say, no, we need to just have one big budget and whatnot. So that passed with that 47% threshold. And that was another controversy because, one controversy just can't be itself. It's always got to beget something else. But the people I represent have, wanted small things like that for a long time, very open and transparent governance. And I've done my best to represent them, even though I know they are not the majority in the community. So voting for me would be voting for that kind of stuff. And that kind of stuff is shifting in opinion. The 39 proposals probably would not have passed if, there was an obvious and overwhelming majority that we should keep going the same way that we have been. But people want to see some change, and I represent that change, even though I've had the same opinion for years. How do I uphold the Cardano Constitution? By doing that, sometimes, you know, the correct interpretation of the Constitution, or one that is most loyal to the Constitution and how it is written, is not the most popular one. I'm not someone who's going to, you know, buckle under peer pressure or the majority opinion. And I'll be able to make the correct decision based off of how the Cardano Constitution is written. Now that's an interesting point again, because as a lot of people have brought up here, there are ambiguities. There is vagueness in the Constitution. You know, Utah is working on a new Constitution, revising things. In the meantime, you know, if there is some sort of uncertainty in the Constitution, I just have to make my best legal theory to make an accurate and correct decision. And as Samuel just pointed out, big shout out to Cardano Atlantic Council. How they've documented things has created a bit of a legal precedent that I can follow to determine the constitutionality of an action. I don't really see myself being unable to determine, not to like, sorry about that, unable to determine the constitutionality of an action. I have a background in political theory from UCLA. I'm going to law school in 20 days. I'm going to be surrounded by, you know, people like Philip's dad, who have been just writing about constitutional law for the last 15, 20 years of their career. I can always ask them, but, you know, that would be also more of an American kind of opinion on the law, not necessarily something that represents how Cardano should be, because, you know, Cardano is it's a global system. It transcends really past laws, you know, transcends old English common law. It's something completely new that we're doing here. I'm not going to have any sort of ties because I'm a solo candidate. In fact, I want to be able to get my opinions out quicker to give the DReps kind of an indication of where the proposal is going. I know this is very controversial, because people don't want the CC to be guiding the DReps. The DReps have to be their own independent body. I'm willing to work with other groups to, you know, kind of say like, to you know, if I need to hold my opinion back, we can create like an injunction. I talked about this yesterday with Matthew Caps, and say like, you know, Kevin, just hold your opinion for 2 more weeks, or only release it on GitHub, because we want DReps to have, you know, time to think about this. Or as a you know, as a whole, the Constitutional Committee doesn't really work with each other right now. They kind of work in their own sort of cohorts that they've created, their own consortiums. I forget the word that we're using for it, but as a solo candidate, I could kind of jump from group to group and get their opinion too on things. And that in a way will hold me a bit accountable, and be, you know, I can be more transparent with everybody else on the Constitutional Committee. And then they can go and say like, yeah, I know we did this with Kevin Mohr, and that's how we've formed our opinions around this. And yeah, you know, I don't just shut myself off to the rest of the community and like pop out a decision on GitHub and then maybe have a little publishing platform here and there. Yeah, I'm fitting a lot of stuff into this, I know. Last thing, I promised a certain lawyer in the ecosystem that I would try and write a majority and minority opinion for every sort of governance action. So I do want to work with the other teams too. That fits in the transparency and accountability thing. Is there anything I should touch on before in this last 45 seconds?
Choice is yours.
I kind of spewed it all out there, but you know, maybe that woke some people up at the end of this call or this this live stream. Anyway, that's my time. I'll be done. Thank you.
Thank you. It certainly was an interesting input to hear from you as an individual candidate. All right. So, Kevin, with you, we actually conclude our today's roundtable talk, and I want to thank you also on behalf of the team that's been making this possible, Sebastian, Denicio, and many more. Thank you to all of you diverse candidates for taking the time to be with us today and for your thoughtful responses, and also for your willingness to step up and serve the Cardano community. Also, a big thank you to our audience as well for tuning in, as well also for the engagement. I saw some of the comments on YouTube and X. It's been great to see. And yeah, we hope that this session has been insightful and that will also help our DReps in their decision-making progress. And as a reminder, the voting period for the Constitutional Committee ends July 2nd. So please make sure to cast your vote on elections.constitution.gov.tools. We also show it on screen in a minute, or oh, it's already down there. Perfect. And if you missed any part of today's event or you would like to rewatch it again, the full recording will be available on the Cardano Community YouTube channel and on X. And yeah, on behalf of the team, we look forward to seeing the results of the election on July 6th and the formation of the first fully elected Constitutional Committee. So have a great rest of your day. And thank you.